thanks to our sponsors and partners here, that you can see all of them in the CPX Expo outside. For those who didn't notice that, it's divided into two parts, one just outside here and another one around the corner. So make sure you visit all of them and you see the best of it. With that, I'd like to move to talk a little bit about our subject of the day, and that's how we keep our edge in security. And what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of perspective of the security evolution. I'm sure you all share it, and mostly focus about what Check Point is doing this year to raise the level of security, share some of our latest product announcement, and share some of the vision of what we are developing and how it comes into life within our product. I'm sure that you all know, I'm in this business of security since I've started Check Point in 1993, so it's now 19 years. And 19 years ago, when the internet just got started, security was a top priority, was number one item for many companies connecting to the internet. And today it's became a pretty sizable market. And 2 decades into the internet, security remains a top priority. And more interestingly, is that security moved from being something that's really hackers, amateurs, people are doing for fun. It became something really, really strategic. And we're seeing every day this style of security attacks. Bruno mentioned the Stuxnet from last year, the Flame from this week, and there's many, many more. And they just attack countries or huge companies. These are robots and automatic tools that attack each one of our computers and each one of our networks every single day. And we can see it in many, many different statistics. If you look at different types of malware, between 2007 and 2011, six-fold increase in the amount of malware. Bots, this kind of automated remote software that lies within our network, part of all these recent cyber attacks. 82% of enterprises found out that they had a bot attack in the past year in their network. And by the way, my bet is that the other 18% didn't discover that. Based on our experience, it doesn't mean that they didn't have the attack. The fact that we didn't identify that. But there's also some good things, because 97 of these breaches, and this is part of the research done here, could have been avoided with some simple controls, with focusing on certain rules and certain technologies, not just the technologies, in terms of keeping security up. So what do we do about that? About the fact that yes, we need more security, amount of attacks is growing and becoming more and more critical and more strategic. And natural reaction for most of us is add more security. And that's helped create a pretty big industry around us with hundreds of vendors, and as you can see, many cases, that's what we do. Simply keep adding up more and more technologies, piling them up in our data centers. Does that work? Is it effective? And the challenge here, and you'll see another data here in a survey conducted with almost 10,000 C-level executives, 12% were less confident in the level of security they have in 2012 compared to 2009. And why is that? There's a good reason for that. And one of the biggest challenges here, that when you got a more and more complicated environment, more and more complicated security, things don't always work together. And the people who operate it, and that's you and your customers here, start to have a real problem separating what we call here the forest from the trees. How do we make sure that all the security technologies work in concert? How do we make sure that they all work together? Are we really focusing on implementing our security policy and checking security, or are we simply busy installing new appliances and new versions of software and new products? What are we doing the right things? And the reality of the matter that just piling up more and more technologies is not always the right answer. And it's definitely not enough. When we actually try to design the right security, we need to think about a few more things. First, we must make security simple and controllable, and I think that's been the Checkpoint story for many, many years. We've stayed very focused. We haven't always done as much as we're doing today in security, but we always kept the focus on taking security and making it simple and controllable. And part of it today, with the proliferation and the amount of different security products that we have, is continuing to consolidate, is take more integrated system, more suites, and put them together. And that's actually very, very consistent with additional surveys. This one is a survey by Gartner that shows that last year 62% of organizations preferred suites over point product compared to 45% the year before. But even that is still not enough, because as good as the technology that we will take, we will still need to operate it right. And last year we've talked about that message. Technology enough is not alone. We need to combine good security policies, practical security policies that stay at the policy level and not want to confuse security policy with security operations or a checklist of things that we have to install. We cannot avoid involving people, both the IT people, but also every user in the company that needs to be aware that they can be a target, that they can be the weak link in putting the security together. And at the end, we need to put together the effective technologies. And we called that last year, and we still do, the 3D security, three-dimensional security. And Avi, that's hosting this event, is running today our practice in Checkpoint that helps companies put together the right policies for each environment. But even after doing that, at the end of the day, at Checkpoint, our job is to provide better technology. And we kept asking ourselves, what's the next innovation? What can we do, not just in terms of education and policy and talking about that? What can we do to make security more effective? What's the next innovation that we can come up in terms of technology? And this year we've actually launched that. We've launched it last month, and I'm very, very happy to talk about it and launch it in Europe here with this big forum. And let me start with an example that, as we can see, repeats itself every year, and it's a pretty well-known example, but as I said, small examples like that are happening every day. Last year, a well-known industrial espionage was discovered. There were more than 70 victims, and that means organizations, companies, in this case many international organizations in 14 different countries. The evidence that was found shows that this attack was running for more than 5 years, started in 2006, and very similar to last week's attack. All these organizations were basically, it was driven by industrial espionage. Confidential data from all of these organizations was sent to the same destination, to the same operator, stealing data for over 5 years. Now, this was a very sophisticated attack, and we really starting to ask ourselves, what could we have done better? And what should have been done better? And I think one thing in common that we find here is that many times when we look at this attack, they operate for a long time, we see signs of them in different places, but the challenge here is that in almost all cases, each one of us operates independently. We run our systems, we see something suspicious, sometimes we know what to do with it, sometimes we don't even know what to do with it, and that's it. If we found the real attack, we may have protected ourselves, but the rest of the world, thousands and tens of thousands of our organization remain completely exposed. And if we just see the signs and we can't interpret them, we can't understand them, nothing happens and the attack goes on for weeks and months and so on. And that's another statistics that we see here, that 85 of the breaches that occurred and were found took many, many weeks, if not months and years, to discover. So when we thought about that, we said, how do we take that common knowledge and common intelligence and the different facts that we found in each customer environment, in each company, in each organization, and combine that to better fight today's attack? And I think we got to the conclusion that we need to combine the efforts and collaborate. So when one organization will find a sign of an attack or will find the threats, if we collaborate, if we share that knowledge, if we work together, we can actually defend and work together to defend ourselves and the rest of the world from these attacks. The principle, by the way, is fairly straightforward. Technology is not that straightforward, but the principle is very straightforward. Each organization can detect an attack. Each gateway that you have can see signs of an attack. When we see a sign like that, we share that attack information with a global network. And basically, some of these things we can immediately block, and some of these things, when we collect the different data points from different places around the world, we can understand that this is actually an attack and immediately let everybody else in the network block it, immediately. Within a matter, it can be a matter of days, minutes, and in some cases even seconds from the weeks and months that we've seen before. And in the past almost 2 years, we've worked very, very hard to make that vision of global collaboration in security, to make that a reality. And now we're introducing Threat Cloud. The Checkpoint Threat Cloud, it's the first, and I think only real, true global collaboration network to fight new type of threats. How does it work? Really simple. We have a network of sensors, and mainly each company that connects to that network can choose, and hopefully will choose, to participate and send us the attack information. So we collect attack information from thousands, tens of thousands, and hopefully more soon, gateways around the world. Each customer, each one of the existing checkpoint gateways around the world can be part of that network and share information. That information is analyzed using the Checkpoint Threat Cloud service. And immediately we will update all the participating gateways with real-time protection, and we truly can create global collaboration to fight these new threats. How effective it is, how big it is, you can see that already when we started launching this network, we have over 250 million addresses mapped over the internet between addresses that are used by malware and addresses that are more safe and more reliable, white and black list of things. More than 4.5 million of malware signatures that we've collected from different sources. Over 300,000 malware-infested sites that are used to what's called drive-by download, to distribute malware without knowing. Some of these sites, by the way, were infected themselves. And the more interesting thing is that we had 50,000 new identifiers almost every day to that network. So almost every day we found out 50,000 new data points that are used to block attack and prevent the damages that it can help. And this is pretty big innovation. As I said, this is a vision of something that will be part of everything that we do, but this is something that's not just visionary, it's actually working right now. That's part of R75.40, the software release that we launched just like last month in the Orlando CPX, and that's a pretty big deal because that's working right now. That's not just something that will happen 2 years or 3 years, that's something that each one of you and each one of us can use to upgrade the security of our network and participate by contributing information. And R75.40 is actually one of our more interesting versions of software that we launched in recent years. So let's see what else is in the R75.40. So first and foremost, there's more security. The global collaboration, the threat cloud to fight new threats, new technologies to block new attacks, and I'll talk about it in a second. But it's not just more security, but it's also much more control. We'll give you a completely new way to look at the data we collect and understand what's going on in our networks and how that security works, and the cutting-edge secure operating system to combine and get a unified platform, the most secure, the most advanced security platform. So let me go a little bit about each one of these and describe that in a second. So I already spoke about Threat Cloud. And Threat Cloud, as I said, is the foundation of many of the things that we're doing. And the next two things are actually powered by Threat Cloud. Threat Cloud is powering our new software blades, the new anti-bot blade, and the updated anti-malware, antivirus software blade, which is also very new here, getting this real-time information. So let me speak a little bit about each one of these blades. The anti-bot we talked about last October, and now we are finally shipping it. And let's see how it works, beyond the fact that it gets all this information from the Threat Cloud. The anti-bot software blade basically discovers and stops the bots, and the bots are the most dangerous things to our network. In actually running this anti-bot software blade development, we've been to dozens of organizations, and we found that 100% of the organizations that we've been to had bots in them. And that means that they had one or more computer that was remotely operated by operators that we don't know who they are, and these operators can basically tell that bot to do almost everything that they want, from sending information, attacking other people, to destroying or causing damage to our own organization. So the way to fight these bots that are doing a great job in hiding themselves from traditional means of endpoint security and others is first unique technologies for the discovery, using multiple methods, communication with their bot operators, understanding the behavior of the bot, and many identifiers that look at the different types and facts. Once we discover the bot infection, we're not just sending you a message that's saying the bot exists. We actually prevent the damage right away, because we can know how to stop the traffic to the remote operator. And by the way, this is where the Threat Cloud comes into play. When we see a sign of a bot, we immediately report it to the network, and we immediately get all the known operators of bots. So we can immediately block communication to the operators and stop the bot damage right away. And beyond that, we give a lot of forensic tools to understand what this bot is doing. And we found out that that's also very critical. It's one thing to know that maybe something wrong is going on our network, then to really see what files were sent or what files were attempted to be sent to the operators. And usually when we actually see the information and see what information was trying to be sent, which emails were trying to send on our behalf, and so on, it takes our action to a much higher level, because now we understand that this is not just a theoretical thing. We see that somebody is really trying to cause us damage and steal our data. So we have here the three elements: the discovery, the prevention, and the investigative tools to understand what's going on our network and to stop that. So the anti-bot, I think, is one of the most important technologies that we launched in recent years. That's the most dangerous things in today's network. And frankly, when we look around our industry, there aren't that many effective tools to deal with the bot attacks and the bot damages. Moving back to the antivirus software blade, and that's another very important element of that. And by the way, when we talk about malware, sometimes you can classify similar attacks between different types. Sometimes you can classify it as a virus, sometimes you can classify it as a bot. There is a small fine line between them, so my advice is for everyone to use all of that on your network. So antivirus we have for several years. With the use of Threat Cloud, we've actually been able to upgrade the number of malware signatures almost 300 times. So now we have 4.5 million virus identifier and virus signatures, compared to things that were in the 100,000, 150,000. in previous releases. Part of it is the collection of information that we do. Part of it is the fact that you can get the data real-time from the cloud. Every time you see a new type of downloaded file, downloaded suspicious executable, you consult with the cloud and you immediately get the latest attack. So you don't need to download gigabytes of data every day. You just need to send real-time queries to the cloud service. With that, we also include for the first time over 300,000 sites that are used to send us or contain malicious files. And again, by preventing the access to these sites and to the suspicious files, we take the risk down in a great way, because once we found a site that's used by hackers to allow people to download usually without the user knowledge malware, we take away a lot of that knowledge. And as I mentioned, all of that is updated constantly every second with the threat cloud. So I think by that we're taking a lot of the risks that before weren't part of the firewall world, weren't part of the network, to the security infrastructure and the security gateway. So this is the two software blades. I've talked a lot about can't see the forest from the trees, or how do we actually understand what's going on. And now we're introducing the Checkpoint Smart Log that basically take all the tens of thousands of records we keep every second and make sense of them. This is kind of a difficult moment for me because I wrote our first log viewer or smart view tracker 19 years ago, and this tool is actually a huge replacement and a huge revolution that's 2 or 3 orders of magnitude better than the tools that we had before and the tools that I started writing 19 years ago. So here we are doing something that looks very straightforward, but very complicated to do. We take the billion of log records that we collect, not just in one day, not just in one log file, but over time in multiple log files, in multiple gateways, and we enable basically real-time search, just like a Google search. So you can see in this example, we write in the search window P2P, peer-to-peer, and within half a second, we search through 500 million log records. And you can see, we see the attempts to access peer-to-peer networks on our network with this query. And by the way, the query can be as complicated as we want. We can say P2P today, P2P Gil, which will give us all the searches by Gil. We can just say Gil last week, and it will give us all my network access attempts in the last week. It's really a straightforward search language that you just type the search terms and it's there, just like Google. And you can see in this example, we see that we had 3 attempts to access peer-to-peer application. 2 were blocked, and it's good that were blocked based on our application control technology, GetTorrent, GeoTorrent, and BitTorrent. And 1 peer-to-peer radio was allowed, because peer-to-peer radio is actually a service that only distributes content that's controlled and that's legal between the companies. Radio services usually. By the way, when you see that, you can decide if you want to keep peer-to-peer radio active or not active simply by going to the application controller, disabling and enabling. And as you can see statistics. Who are the users that use that? What are the actions that happened here? It's very straightforward, amazingly powerful tool that basically replaces our log viewers from the past with something really out of this world that our developers developed the past few years. So as you can see, we give you the ability to block new attacks, to search and understand what's going on our network, and we continue to build the foundation and the infrastructure for the network. So if we look at the security consolidation, if in the past we needed dozens of different security point products that were complicated, that were expensive, that created a lot of errors when we combined them. With Checkpoint Software Blades 3 years ago, we've created the architecture for much more combination, for much more consolidation, to create what I think is today the only architecture in the industry that takes so many different security elements and combine them into one unified, clean architecture that works together. We moved from dispersed management, and actually we're known for the last 19 years for our unified management, centralized, all gateways, all software blades can be centrally controlled. If in the past in Checkpoint we used to have multiple lines of appliances, open platforms, the Nokia IP series appliances, the Checkpoint Power One and UTM One, different types of appliances. Late 2011, we introduced the Checkpoint 2012 appliances, one series of appliances from the low end to the fastest firewall in the world, the 61000 series, all of them using the same architecture, all of them clear and consistent, much fewer model, much more power in this series. And what I want to talk about today is the last step in that consolidation, and that's consolidating our operating system. In the past, we used to have many loyal customers to the IPSO secure operating system and many supporters and loyal customers to the Checkpoint secure platform operating system. And now, for the first time, we're taking these two operating systems to secure operating platform and combining them into the most powerful secure operating environment. We call it Checkpoint Gaia, that's our code name and now becoming the public name, that basically takes the best of both worlds. It takes all the features that you've been using from secure platform and all the features from IPSO and combine them into something much more powerful. An operating system that's 64-bit, based on 64-bit, and enable much bigger capacities in terms of connections and so on. A fully integrated IPv6 security, web UI that's extremely strong and take all the features that we needed. Command line control, like many IPSO users got used to, it's now available for all functions and all controls. Automatic software updates, role-based administration, ways to replicate gateways very, very quickly, more multicasting protocol, more dynamic routing protocols, both high availability protocols, and of course, virtualization and single image, and many features, and many of the things you've all been using are now unified and are taken to the next step. But there's also much more in R75.40 that's part of Gaia and part of the R75.40. Over 100 new features from the integrated iOS, iPhone, iPad, mobile VPN to simple things like rule hit count. That I think is one of the most exciting features that everybody likes. You look at the rule base and you see immediately if this rule is being used or not being used on your network. And basically you can see here a lot of features that you've been asking for. Most of these features are truly driven by customer demand on all the different software blades, on the DLP, on the VPN, on the everything, on the infrastructure with our certificate authority. So we've got here a very, very exciting software version, R75.40, that addresses what we believe is the critical needs. It addresses the need for consolidated management and consolidated the 3D security with the ability to combine policy, people, and enforcement together. Of course, everything here is user-based, so you can do the log queries or the policy based on the users, based on the people. New technologies to prevent the new threats with the threat cloud and with the real-time collaboration. The new anti-bot and antivirus software blades, taking security to a new level, and we're making all of that more simple, more controllable with both the Gaia operating environment and the smart law. So I think we are trying to actually make our vision of security a reality, and I'm very, very proud with the huge development efforts that were invested in R75, R75.20, and now R75.40, trying to make that vision a reality. But before we finish, I want one more thing to share with you, and that's something we are actually introducing here in in Berlin for the first time. It's a new announcement, and that's one more advancement in our technology, and that's about speed and performance. And I think, as you know, and as we all know, speed has been something very, very important in the operation of security networks. And last year, what we've done with our new appliances that are 3 times faster, with the 61,000, that actually a great success in taking performance to a new level. But there's still more to be done, and you can see that it relates to things that are sometimes important to financial markets, but also in many other industries. You can see the quote here, what separates winners and losers is how fast they can move, and that has a lot to do not just with the overall speed of our network, but with the latency and the capacities and the number of connections we can handle in the network. So I'm very, very proud to introduce the new security acceleration module, and with a brand new technology that drives that. A new technology that's called security cores, that is used to deliver high security in very low latency environment. And let me explain what it is. You can see the picture of it. It's a pretty big module, very, very sophisticated, and you'll see in a second why and what it can drive. So if we look at today's designs of security architecture, the way we do it, we use general purpose computer, which is, by the way, great, because, and I don't want to talk down about it, because the general purpose computing that we are using is what enables us to move fast and introduce new capabilities and make security move forward as fast as we can and with the most advanced features. And today's general purpose computer runs at the high end with 8 to 16 different computing cores at the core of each of our gateways. The big breakthrough here with security acceleration module is that we use dedicated processors to drive it to a completely new level. And this security acceleration module comes up with over 108 dedicated security cores that helps the 16 cores that we already have on our systems. These cores are small, are focused on security operations, and they can be programmed to do many different types of security operation, but they are really, really focused on the critical security operations that we want to accelerate. And this is the breakthrough with this architecture, massively parallel processing architecture that keeps the security at the highest level and at the fastest speed. And let's see what does that mean. If we look at today's systems that do, in our case, some of the fastest systems, 44 microseconds in latency, the amount of time it takes a packet to move from one side of the gateway to the other side, and drives a throughput on our high-end systems, not the 61,000 or 50 gigabits per second. The 61,000 can do much more. Today, in the same system, we can make it twice as fast and 10 times as quick. So we actually take the latency from 44 microseconds to less than 5 microseconds, 4-point-something microseconds, and by doing that, we even double the throughput. And that's not just it. It's not